Have you ever seen a feline chasing its own tail? It circles endlessly, picking up speed with each turn, utterly sure that one more burst of effort, one extra twist, will let it seize the elusive prize. Yet the more it pursues, the slipperier that tail proves to be. Then, abruptly, the cat halts. It plops down, stretches with a yawn, and starts grooming its foot. And right there, resting calmly next to it, lies the very tail it had been after the whole time. This, dear companions, captures the essence of how we humans operate. We devote our days to pursuing joy, achievement, tranquility, affection, whirling ourselves into exhaustion along the way. We resist, we shove, we battle the inherent rhythm of existence, certain that life is a puzzle demanding a fix instead of a journey worth experiencing. Imagine if I revealed that this very pushing is what blocks you from your desires. What if the key to possessing it all lies in desiring none of it? From our earliest years, society drills into us that existence is a contest to conquer. We have to battle for our spot on the planet, resist our surroundings, surmount hurdles through raw determination alone. That's the grand deception of our era. We convince ourselves that sufficient toil, meticulous strategy, and ironclad oversight will shape the world to our liking. But authentic living operates differently. It's fluid, like a river, rather than rigid like rock, harmonious like a melody instead of mechanical like gears. Consider your breath just now. As you pause in your seat, your chest expands and contracts on its own, without a shred of conscious input. No deliberation, no orchestration, no compulsion required. It unfolds smoothly, without strain. Now, suppose you resolve to dominate your respiration entirely. If you labored over every gulp of air, calibrated each intake with exactness, and regulated every release meticulously, anxiety would soon grip you, tension would build, and you'd fall out of sync with your own body. That compulsion itself would shatter the innate elegance that was present all along. Precisely this is how we mishandle existence. We transform what ought to feel as instinctive as inhaling into a grueling ordeal. We coerce our bonds, insisting they match our ideals to the letter. We drive our professions relentlessly, grinding away until the original purpose of ambition fades from memory. We compel our fulfillment, hunting delights and dodging discomforts until we're drained from the chase. Yet, an alternative path exists. There's timeless insight about Wu Wei, engaging without coercion. It's the manner of a stream, which navigates its course not by clashing with boulders, but by curving gracefully around them. A river doesn't rebel against the terrain. It embraces the given and seeks the smoothest route forward. Over ages, with steady gentleness, it etches valleys and molds peaks. I recall a fellow who devoted decades to bullying his way toward bliss. He toiled through 16-hour shifts, persuaded that ample wealth, the ideal home, and the flawless partner would at last bring satisfaction. He mapped out every aspect of his routine, timetabled every instant, and manipulated every factor imaginable. Still, the fiercer his pursuit of that idealized existence, the deeper his despair grew. Eventually, worn out and broken, he collapsed beside a stream. No strength remained for scheming, compelling, or hustling. He just lingered, observing the current glide by. And in that instant of total yielding, a remarkable shift occurred. Serenity washed over him, unfamiliar and profound. A fulfillment utterly independent of his situation. The elation he'd hunted for so long was right there, ever present, patiently lurking below the frenzy of his pursuits. Here's the profound irony. Cease the compulsion in life, loosen your hold and let events unfold as they will, and you'll uncover that your quarry was never missing. It was merely veiled under your frantic quest to uncover it. Let me emphasize one point. By urging against force, I don't mean slipping into idleness or inertia. I'm not advocating inaction or drifting aimlessly without purpose. The skill of effortless engagement is far more nuanced. It involves discerning between moves born of organic impulse and those driven by frantic clinging. Picture a master bowman. As the expert pulls back the string, power and accuracy infuse the motion. Yet there's no coercion, no tension, no obsessive fixation on the outcome. The shooter merges with the weapon, the shaft, the mark. The shot releases spontaneously at the perfect instant, akin to a mature apple dropping from its branch. That's the essence of moving without strain. You remain free to labor, innovate, and chase aspirations, but with a gentle approach. You sow the kernels and nurture them. Without yanking the sprouts to hasten their rise, you do what you can act in alignment with what's possible, then pull back and let existence unfold as it will. Yet, this is where things turn fascinating. Many of us have grown so accustomed to pushing that we barely recognize what effortless movement truly entails. We've lost touch with distinguishing between moving in harmony with existence and battling the tide. So, how might you start spotting that distinction? Observe your sensations during moments of activity. In pushing, there's a sense of strain, of tightness, of urgently craving a specific result. An inner dialogue often emerges. And, quote, in harmony, energy and purpose persist, yet it resembles enjoyment more than labor. It carries an innate ease, akin to a bird's melody or a blossom unfurling. Pushing resembles heaving a massive boulder up a slope. Harmony resembles gliding on a gentle breeze. Each demands focus and practice, but one resists the natural order, while the other syncs with it. Allow me to share the story of Sierra, an acquaintance from my past who uncovered this contrast in the least anticipated manner. As an artist focused on oils, she'd devoted years to compelling herself toward iconic works. She'd perch before her canvas for extended periods, grappling fiercely to yield something profound, something validating her talent. During that phase, her pieces emerged rigid, restrained, devoid of vitality. One weary afternoon, overwhelmed by irritation, she discarded her tools and retreated. She avoided creating for several weeks, but bit by bit, she began grabbing a pen sporadically, doodling odds and ends that drew her gaze. A feline, dozing by a sill, patterns of shade across a surface, her fingers clutching a mug of brew. No demands, no objectives, no compulsion. She engaged purely as a kid might frolic. And an enchanting shift occurred. Those casual drawings pulsed with vitality, impulsiveness, allure, qualities absent from her compelled grand efforts. Upon resuming her brushes, she infused this vibe into her process. Rather than aiming for monumental creations, she merely rendered what yearned to emerge. And curiously, that's precisely when her work attained true excellence. Such is the enigma of releasing control. Cease striving intensely to embody an ideal, and your authentic self surfaces. Quit clutching so fiercely at joy, and realize you're already complete. Halt the urge to reshape reality, and it reveals wonders just as it stands. Still, let's ground this in reality. How do you embody this amid a society that celebrates relentless drive? How do you cease the shove when surroundings urge even greater effort? The initial move involves seeing that much of what you believe demands force proves utterly unnecessary. Society has drilled into us the need to bulldoze toward achievement, yet triumphs born of force seldom bring fulfillment upon arrival. We compel joy upon ourselves, but imposed bliss is mere facade. We strain to sustain bonds, but ties needing perpetual pressure often signal their inherent limits. Begin by spotting the areas of coercion in your daily existence. Do you compel endurance in draining scenarios, push to impersonate another version of you? Insist others conform to your expectations, or impose fixes on issues that could sort themselves? I recall a fellow who sought my counsel, anxious over his adolescent child. The youth was earning failing marks, lingering out past curfew, appearing defiant and adrift. The parent had attempted every tactic: rigid guidelines, private instructors, stern talks, disciplinary measures. None succeeded. The harder he pressed, the fiercer the resistance grew. At last, drained from the conflict, the dad opted for an alternate path. Rather than demanding change from his boy, he offered presence. He ceased admonishing and commenced hearing. He halted penalties and embraced faith. He retained his paternal duties without imposing dominance. The outcome proved astounding. Relieved of endless scrutiny, the teen started charting his course. What appeared as harmful defiance was merely his innate drive toward identity. with the coercion lifted, real dialogue emerged. The bond, fraying under authoritarian weight, mended within openness. This illustrates my point. Releasing the push transforms all. It may not shift as you anticipated or insisted. It evolves as required, as it always sought to prior to your interference. Now, consider this twist that could catch you off guard. Refraining from force doesn't imply indifference. Quite the contrary. It frequently signifies deeper investment, though expressed anew. When you relinquish dictating results, you gain liberty to offer your close attention to the journey itself. Without that intense fixation on outcomes, you're free to immerse yourself completely in the present moment. Consider the contrast between a parent who pushes their kid to excel just to validate their own parenting skills and one who nurtures the child's development out of pure affection. The former centers on the parent's desires, while the latter focuses on the child's true welfare. The first approach breeds tension and bitterness. The second fosters security and inspiration. By letting go of compulsion, you can express love more openly, since it's not tied to expecting certain reactions. You become more productive in your tasks, unencumbered by frantic clinging to desired results, and you engage in activities with greater delight, as they're not secretly labors in costume. There's a classic Taoist tale about a fellow whose horse ran away. His neighbors rushed over to console him, exclaiming, quote, "Wam. Yet he replied calmly, quote, "Tanu." The following day, the horse came back, accompanied by a herd of wild ones. The neighbors praised his stroke of luck, but he responded once more. Quote, 3. Soon after, his son attempted to break in one of the wild horses and ended up with a fractured leg. The neighbors extended their condolences again, and again he said, quote, "Fuios." Then conflict erupted in the area, drafting all able-bodied young men, except his son, who was spared due to the injury. The moral here isn't to remain detached from life's occurrences. Rather, it's a reminder that we can't fully grasp the significance of any single event within the grand scheme of our existence. Insisting on labeling things as purely positive or negative blinds us to the subtle wisdom always operating behind the scenes. Existence carries its inherent insight, its unique pace, and its natural progression. Once we cease imposing our narrow agendas on this broader flow, we start aligning with it. We learn to move in harmony with life, rather than struggling against it. Now, regarding aspirations, what of aspirations and aspirations? Am I suggesting you simply float through existence without purpose? Absolutely not. Ambitions and aims hold real value. The key lies in your approach to them. Do you cradle them gently, like a delicate bird that could take flight any time? Or do you clutch them so fiercely that you damage what you aim to protect? Distinguish between mere inclinations and rigid dependence on results. It's possible to hope for a particular path while staying receptive to alternatives. You can pursue your objectives with openness to whatever unfolds. You can harbor visions, yet remain ready for life's unexpected turns. I once encountered a woman who'd aspired to medicine since childhood. She poured effort into her studies, prepped rigorously for med school admissions, submitted applications, but got rejected. She might have battled on, reapplying endlessly, funding costly coaching, letting her whole existence revolve around that goal. Instead, she mourned the setback, then pondered, what other opportunities await me now? She pivoted to nursing, advanced to nurse practitioner, and ultimately launched a clinic for those unable to access standard health care. In time, she saw how her route enabled deeper, more personal aid to far more individuals than a conventional physician's role might have. Her aspiration came to fruition, just not through the rigid path she'd envisioned. That's life's clever design. By releasing our constrained perspectives on what's possible, we create room for realities to reveal paths beyond our foresight. The cosmos outshines our individual resolve and creativity every time. That said, let's tackle a concern that might nag at you amid these ideas. You could worry. If I ease up on pushing, won't I turn slack? Won't my drive fade, my sharpness dull, my capacity for success vanish? This anxiety is widespread, rooted in the false idea that compulsion is the sole counter to inertia. But reflect on this. What energizes you more? Pursuing passions that arise organically from your passions and talents, or dragging yourself through disliked duties out of obligation? What yields superior outcomes? Efforts born of authentic zeal and innate aptitude, or those driven by sheer grit and coerced toil? Ceasing to force doesn't strip away your strength. It unveils your authentic vitality, replacing the fragile, draining force of sheer willpower that demands endless upkeep. You tap into the effortless, sustainable energy of instinctive movement. Rather than resisting existence, you harness its momentum to fulfill what genuinely matters. This shift isn't instant. Many of us have been compelling ourselves for years, losing touch with our innate cadence. We've been battling the stream so long that we barely embrace that sensation of going along with the current. Mastering the skill of letting go rather than pushing is much like figuring out how to stay afloat. Initially, it can feel intimidating to ease up and have faith that the water will support you. Yet, once you realize that loosening your grip actually enhances your buoyancy instead of diminishing it, a shift occurs. So, how can you start honing this practice of refraining from effort? Begin modestly. Spot those minor spots where you're exerting yourself needlessly. Perhaps you're straining in chats, over trying to come across as engaging or noteworthy. Instead, opt for simply hearing the other out, showing real interest in them. Or maybe you're battling through the commute, clashing with each stoplight and sluggish motorist. Consider embracing the existing rhythm, employing the moments to inhale deeply or observe what's around you. Tune into your physical state. Pushing inevitably builds bodily strain. Your neck tenses, your teeth grit, your breaths turn superficial. Spotting this tightness serves as a cue that you're resisting the natural movement rather than joining it. Inhale steadily. Release your neck and ponder. How might this unfold without my interference? Observe the nature of your inner dialogue during those pushes. It often carries a frantic, looping vibe. It must succeed. It must succeed. It must succeed. Or, why the delay here? Or, by this point, I'd expect more progress. Such notions act as cognitive knots that breed distress without advancing a thing. When you detect this inner push, swap the insistent ideas for inquisitive alternatives. Rather than it must succeed, experiment with what might unfold. Over why the delay, go with what lesson hides in this tempo. Instead of I'd expect more progress, reflect on precisely where things stand now. Yet, the key insight about avoiding force is that it isn't about turning inert. It's about shifting to attentiveness over impulsiveness. It's about tuning into what the present demands rather than overlaying your fixed plans on each scenario. At times, it asks for pause, so you settle without remorse or fidgeting. Other times, it urges voicing out or holding back words, or advancing or stepping away. The skill lies in discerning the requirement intuitively, not predetermining what you assume ought to occur. Such attentiveness calls for a focus our society seldom nurtures. We're conditioned to stay occupied, forever acting, cramming each instant with tasks or distractions. But true responsiveness needs room, calm, the capacity to heed life's quiet undercurrents. It's akin to contrasting a non-stop chatterer with someone who discerns the right time to contribute or absorb. The endless speaker might utter plenty, yet seldom deliver substance since they're ignoring the dialogue's true needs. The attuned individual utters fewer words, but when they share, those expressions carry weight because they're synced with the instant. Navigating life sans force mirrors this. You exert less, yet your actions prove more potent as they harmonize with emerging possibilities. You expend milder effort, yet achieve greater results by partnering with existence's rhythms instead of opposing them. Let me recount one additional tale. This one's from my own life. Long back, I grappled with a writing project. Facing a cutoff, I hunkered over my machine for ages, compelling output from myself. But all that emerged rang hollow, devoid of spark, inauthentic. The more I strained, the poorer the results. I'd locked into a loop of compulsion, yielding only irritation. At last, I surrendered. I abandoned my spot and strolled seaside. I aimed to fix the snag or chase muses. I just wandered, absorbing the wave's cadence and the grit underfoot. Then, effortlessly, phrases started surfacing, not the contrived scraps I'd battled earlier, but vital expressions eager to surface. I didn't hurry to my machine. I permitted the flow as I moved, confident essentials would linger in mind. Upon resuming, it resembled a stream rushing an unclogged path. Concepts once jammed by my insistence arrived smoothly. Effortlessly, the work shaped itself, surpassing what sheer determination could yield. That moment revealed a vital truth on invention, on existence altogether. Prime outcomes arise not from compulsion. They arise by fostering settings where excellence can arise organically. A cultivator doesn't compel blossoms. They supply earth, moisture, rays, then observe and believe. The flowering unfolds independently. As we approach our session's close, I wish to impart this final idea. You're not flawed. No repairs required. You don't have to push. Don't push yourself to become someone else, superior, more accomplished, more enlightened, or whatever else. Instead, quit the struggle and let the inherent beauty within you surface naturally. You're akin to a stream blocked by your own attempts to direct its path. Once you dismantle that barrier of compulsion, when you cease striving to transform into something you're not, your innate flow resumes. And that flow understands its direction far better than your thoughts ever could. The shifts that arise from releasing the force aren't always what you anticipate. They're typically superior, more inventive, more unexpected, more in harmony with your core essence than any scheme from your individual determination. By stepping aside from your own interference, existence gains room to reveal your true potentials. So, I encourage you at this moment to observe the areas in your existence where you're exerting pressure. What resistance are you maintaining that could benefit from surrender? What elements are you gripping too tightly that might thrive with liberty? What conflicts are you waging that could dissolve on their own if you set aside your defenses? This isn't about turning passive or abandoning your values. It's about discerning the strained push driven by anxiety from the seamless motion born of affection. It's about believing that existence isn't a foe to subdue, but a companion in the rhythm, eager for you to grasp the dance. Cease imposing on life, and transformation unfolds. Not through bending the world to your desires, but by permitting the world to unveil the gifts it has offered from the start. Those gifts are invariably more exquisite, more fitting, more precisely suited to you than any outcome you might coerce. The feline has quit pursuing its own tail. It rests serenely now, intact and fulfilled, no longer seeking what was never apart from it. This is your call. Halt the frenzy. Cease the pursuit. Pause amid your days, and realize that the pursuit's object is already present, has forever been present, awaiting the instant you release the force and permit yourself to simply be. Hey,